Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. In today's fun, in-process model kit review, we'll be looking at the Italeri 1/48 scale Fiat CR.42 Falco. This is Italeri kit number 2801. This kit was originally released in 2006, and the particular boxing that I have was released in 2020. The plastic parts in this kit have been reboxed by Tamiya. They've also been reboxed by SuperModel. In this video, I'll give a brief history of the CR42. We'll also take a look at what comes in the box. We'll go through the kit instructions, and I'll talk about any known problem areas to watch out for with this kit. We'll look at the detailing on the smaller parts in the kit, and that includes the parts for the engine and the interior. We'll also look at the surface detailing on the exterior of the kit and the fit of the major parts. We'll look at the marking options that are included with this kit, and we'll talk about the quality of the decals themselves. We'll also talk about the clarity and fit of the clear parts that are included. I'll also list any aftermarket sets that I plan to use on this build. A brief history of the CR42. Fiat developed the CR42 Falco in the late 1930s. The new biplane single-seat fighter had fixed landing gear and an open cockpit, but was equipped with important innovations such as alloy and steel frame covered by canvas and metal paneling. Thanks to its supercharged, air-cooled Fiat A74 radial engine, the CR42 was able to reach 400 kilometers per hour. It had extraordinary maneuverability, but suffered the biplane configuration limits. It was able to successfully engage the Gloucester Gladiators, but it was soon outclassed by faster, heavily armed monoplanes such as the Hawker Hurricane and the Supermarine Spitfire. Several Fiat CR42s were used by the Italian Regia Aeronautica during the Battle of Britain within the Corpo Aereo Italiano. Looking at what comes in the box, there are 2 sprues of gray plastic parts, as well as a single sprue of clear parts, and a nicely printed decal sheet. There's also a nice set of instructions. As I was looking at the sprues that were included in the box, I realized that there is an error in the instructions, and the sprue A that came in the kit did not have the circled items. This can cause potential problems because the unspatted landing gear that was previously on this sprue is not included, and this means that we don't have the plastic parts to model one of the included marking options. Moving on to step 1 of the instructions, this is the construction of the interior of the aircraft. Construction-wise, this is very straightforward. However, what is shown in the instructions is that there are instrument panels that have raised detail on them, and you can use either those, or you can use flat panels that have a decal to represent the instruments. Unfortunately, my kit did not come with the decals for the instrument panels or the side consoles, so that's not really an option. Fortunately for me, I have the Edward interior detail set for this kit, and that includes the instrument panels. It also includes a nice set of pre-painted photo-etched seat belts, and that will really dress up what you can see through the cockpit opening. The raised detail for the instruments themselves is actually very simplistic, and it's just raised circles. So there's not really much instrument dial detail included in the kit parts. If you look at the back of these detail parts, you can see what is a persistent problem on this kit, and that is there is a lot of flash on the small parts that needs to be cleaned up. Because of the persistent flash and the somewhat soft plastic that's included in the kit, you're going to spend quite a bit of time cleaning up the small parts and tweaking the fit of really all the parts in the kit in order to get a good fitting model. Moving on to step 2, we are mounting the interior of the aircraft to the starboard side fuselage half, and then we are closing the fuselage halves around the interior assembly. We're also adding the upper gun cover and tail wheel to the kit. Although the fit of the fuselage halves to one another actually looks pretty good, once again, we can see some areas where we're going to need to do some dry fitting to get everything to mount up precisely. In step 3, we're just assembling the lower wings, and then we are attaching those to the fuselage. This picture shows the fit of the lower wings to the fuselage, And once again, we don't have a great fit here. This is definitely going to take some tweaking and dry fitting if we're going to try to get a filler-free join. I'm not sure if that's even possible. You also have some discrepancy between the wing chord, and that's the length from front to back, and the corresponding fuselage fillet. This is the underside of that join. Once again, it's not a very precise fit here. In step 4, we are adding all of these struts to the upper wing, and we're attaching the upper wing halves. Looking at the fit of the upper and lower wing halves, once again, these parts just don't fit that well. In addition, if we look at the engraving around the ailerons on this kit, you can see that it's kind of sloppy, and there's some flash that needs to be trimmed up here as well. All of the struts have minor flash on their leading and trailing edges. In addition, if you follow the kit instructions, there's not going to be anything holding these struts in place at this time. What I'll probably do is mount the struts starting at the center of the wing and working my way out towards the ends of the wings. And then once the struts have dried somewhat, I will mount that upper wing assembly to the lower wing assembly without gluing things in place. And I will just line up all the holes, make sure everything fits properly, and let them dry in the proper location. And then I'll be able to remove the upper wing and strut section during the painting process. Moving on to step 6, we are assembling the engine and then the engine cowling around that. There's persistent flash on the engine parts. I have cleaned that up, and the actual detail on the engine should look pretty good with some paint on it. I think this will turn out nicely. On my example, one of the mounting fins for the engine that mounts the engine to the cowl ring was broken off. I'm not sure where that got to. It's not in the box, so I'm going to have to fabricate a mounting tab on this cylinder head. In step 7, we're just adding some air scoops to the underside of the aircraft. I don't anticipate any issues here. It may be wise to add part 27B before the engine and cowling assembly is fully dried to ensure that the fit of part 27B matches up to the engine cowl. In step 8, we're building the landing gear for the marking options that have the spatted wheel assemblies. We're also building the horizontal tail planes for the aircraft, and we're mounting that to the fuselage. And then finally, we're assembling the prop. This is the underside of the wheel spats. Once again, you're going to have to spend time tweaking the fit on these parts and cleaning them up if you want a nice assembly. Looking at the tail planes, once again, the chord of the tail planes is longer than the fuselage fillet. There also may be issues with the thickness of the fuselage fillet versus the thickness of the tail planes. Once again, you're going to spend a lot of time dry fitting these parts to get a precise assembly. Step 9 has you building the unspatted landing gear assembly, and unfortunately, these parts are not included in the kit, so this isn't even an option. This is actually the first time I've ever run into a problem like this on a modern model kit. I'm just left scratching my head on this one. The final step of assembly is step 10, and we're just adding the clear parts. We're also adding the aileron and rudder actuators. Looking at the clear parts in this kit, these are somewhat thick. They're not actually very clear, and they have somewhat overpronounced framing on them as well. Looking at the color and marking guides, the first 4 marking options are all for the aircraft that has the modeled camouflage, and they honestly look very much like one another. This aircraft is the most colorful of the marking options that are included. And once again, the only non-modeled scheme is not one that we're able to model with the plastic parts provided. Looking at the decals themselves, these seem to be in register. They also look to be opaque, and I don't anticipate any problems with the way these decals perform, but I'll keep you guys informed once I apply them to the model and let you know if there's any issues with them. Looking at the surface detail on the exterior of the kit, by today's standards, it's a little bit heavy-handed. It's also a little bit soft, and there are lots of areas that will need additional cleanup. In conclusion, well, I was really excited to get this kit. I'm glad that it's a subject matter that is not a prevalent model in 1/48 scale. I was looking forward to a mainstream build, and to me, what I'm seeing in the box is much more of a short run type build. I think the soft plastic, the prevalent flash, the imprecise fits, the fact that this is a biplane model, and the very challenging marking options make this a kit for more experienced modelers who want a CR.42 on the shelf. I think newbie modelers would be really frustrated with this one. I'm not sure if I just got a fluke of a kit, but I'm not really impressed with what I see so far on this model. All right, I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you out there have the Italeri or a Tamiya or SuperModel CR.42, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, model on.